Hey, Mr. Pittman, what's up?
Hey.
Hey.
Oh, good
You don't
morning.
have a picture. You're grounded.
I had one before. I don't know why it got rid of the picture. I had a picture of Roscoe.
That's
Remember?
our lovely little mini poodle.
Oh
He's
my God.
rotten as the day is long.
He's his own dog. We'll
Man,
just
that
say
dog
that.
is a troublemaker. I'm telling you what, he must get that from, I don't even know. That
You.
dog's trouble. Yeah, me. Okay.
I
I'm an
just
angel.
he's his own dog. Like he just kind of does what he wants. Like he's a nonconformist. We'll just say that.
Nonconformist.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. It must be rubbing off on his little sister. She's a bad, bad little poodle.
No, that one's an
Hey, your
angel.
main girl. Hey, thank you next. Hey, Kathy Bradley. How are you guys this morning? Man almighty. What a day. What a day. So, what's good with you, Mr. Brandon?
Speaking of addiction, um, for those listening, if you've ever had Rice Krispie treats, Sarah made Rice Krispie treats, but instead she used cinnamon toast crunch.
Dude, they were life changing. Like, I'm serious.
I'm a
Those
different
were,
person.
yeah.
I'm a different person for having those. It was just incredible. I've never had anything like that. I really haven't. I'm not just saying that because you're my wife. Like I've never had anything like that.
Crazy.
And it appeared that you used an unbelievable amount of marshmallows.
I did. I think I used too much. I didn't have a recipe to go by. And so I just kind of like whipped it together, added a little vanilla, and they were life changing. Like, seriously.
Wow. Beyond wow. It was probably the best dessert I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't have anything to compare it to. Like, I've just never. I mean, I like Rice Krispie treats, but this was just another
Whole nother
level.
level, man. Yeah.
Well, I mean, anything homemade is going to be better, obviously, but it just. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go buy me some more marshmallows. I'll make some more.
I'll do that. I'll do that. We'll have to do
So,
those for the holidays as well, so other people can try
yes.
them.
I'd like to take some to your mom. Yeah,
Yeah, I think they'd like that. We'll do
I do
that.
too. Okay. Your mom's not much on sweets though, is she? Hey
No, not
Clancy. Hey
anymore.
Amber. Yeah, yeah.
Health
I
nut.
need to get on her level and get away from the sweets and get skinny like her. I'm
Well,
so
doctors
jealous.
told her that if she didn't lose weight, that kind of
Mm,
thing, her health was
yeah.
gonna. She's
She
getting
was
up there in
never heavy
age.
to begin with though. You know what I
See, I
mean?
didn't think so either, but
Yeah.
she's the type that actually listens to her doctor. I don't know too many people like that, but she's
Not
one of
me.
them. And yeah, I'm not the best either, but yeah, she when a doctor tells her to do something,
Hey
she does it.
Clary. Wow, I have never seen you in here, Clary. It's good to see you. Yeah. So, what's good? Let's talk about this. I am gosh, I've relapsed I can't tell you how many times. So I'm no guru on addiction or anything, and I'm no guru when it comes to statistics, and I'm no guru when it comes to um knowing it all. But I thought we'd just kind of like come on and talk about, genetics when, if that could be a possibility when it comes to addiction, and talk about some statistics and what that means to us. What do
I'm
you
not.
think?
Yeah, that's perfect. And I'm not. I'm not an expert either educationally. Like I mean, I saw that stuff like when I was going to college, but the drug trends have changed so much, and so much has changed um, over the years. Off the top, when it comes to genetics, that is a huge controversy and argument in the addiction world. In
I
terms of,
love you, Trace. I'm sorry. And Amber K has a question. She said, "Did you know if
joke
you
with your
joke,
kids.
yeah, read that."
Did you know if you joke with your kids about drugs, that means they won't be addicts in the future? I
We're gonna definitely touch on that. What's your thoughts on that, Brandon?
Yeah, Sarah asked me that last night. Um, Sarah played me some audio and then said, "What do you think about this?" First and foremost, I don't know about y'all, but when I was a kid, I wasn't very honest with my parents, mostly because I was an addict. And when
Yeah.
you're young and you're an addict, you got to be able to lie, manipulate, play games, make distractions, make things look a certain way to get high and get drunk, to party. Um, I'm an addict in the sense that anything that makes me feel good, I'm going to be addicted to. So I remember being like 12, 13 and having to like, lie to my parents that I was staying the night at Joey's house so I could go over to some girl's house. Or my parents saying that I smelled like smoke. And of course, I would blame it on so and so's parents, or there were some older kids there. Um, the thing is, had you asked my parents, was Brandon being honest? I think they believe, for the most part, they believed me. The older I got, the more obvious it became that I was lying. But it, with kids, it's so, and especially, I feel so old saying this, but kids are different these days. They just are.
They are.
Um, and I would not want to be a kid right now. The world's at a very weird place. There's a lot going on. But in terms of like I guess it's joking with your kids about drugs. I don't know how that would help either direction. I have no concept on how that would help um, them not use, stay clean, stay away from drugs. I don't get it. I don't understand how that would help. Um, I think a lot of parents don't know what the hell to do with their kids, so they look online and the first suggestion at the top of a Google search is what they go with, you know. And I think it was a question of just communicating with a child about drugs and all that. I've not seen that work either. Yeah, I know people who've done stuff like that and it did not work. Not to saying it won't work for this or that person. I'm just saying what I've seen. No, addiction doesn't care if you joke about it or not. Addiction doesn't care how old the person is. Addiction doesn't care how much money you have, what color your skin is, who you pray to. Addiction does not care.
And let me add, there's parents that talk to their children, and those children grow up to become addicts anyway. I can remember being in a DARE program when I was probably 7, 8 years old. And I can remember sitting there with my dad and listening to these police officers and that dog. Who was that? McGruff?
I
Whatever.
think, yeah.
Yeah. And they would pass around this box, and it was like, it was a box with glass on top, and it had like every drug you can imagine in this box. And for whatever reason, I have always remembered this, and I don't know why, but I still became an addict, even though people talked to me until they were blue in the face about what harm drugs can do. I still became an addict. And I think, like, for me, I think addiction, like you always say, Brandon, you knew you was an addict when you hit the delivery room floor. I think I was the same way. I I had problems with like sucking my thumb, and I couldn't stop. So I had um addiction tendencies, cuz that was an addiction of mine, and it was so hard to break. I don't think that I stopped sucking my thumb until I was like 11. And there's different things. There's early warning signs with people, and I don't go off of statistics. I don't. Um, I'd rather talk to people in person than read something online about a statistic. I don't think statistics go very far.
Well, unfortunately, they're not factual, and I'll explain. Not let me say this: they're not always factual.
Good morning, Denise. Good morning, Mac 11.
The main issue there is a lot of times statistics are set up and written a certain way to continue for that organization to get money.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the truth. I've watched that. I've been a part of that. I've literally lied. My boss told me what to write down. My boss said, this is what this number needs to read at the end of the night. Because if it doesn't, we don't have jobs. And the doors aren't open for people to get clean and sober.
Or we don't get this funding unless.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I hate to say that. I'm not saying that to incriminate or make anyone look bad. We did what we had to do to keep the doors open. No one cared about some statistic that was going to be forgotten about within a week. All we cared about was doing what we had to do to keep the doors open. Now, one of the things that's ringing through to me with talking to kids
Mommy,
is,
girls, Alyssa.
I don't remember how old I was, but I remember, I think it was my dad, and he told me to not I grew up in a town that had a lot of pharmaceuticals floating around. So my
Yeah.
dad had said to me, if you see any blue or purple pills, make sure you don't take them. I had never heard of blue or purple pills until he told me about them. So my first thought is, well, shit, I got to try those as soon as I find them. Ended up being Xanax, which God caused me a lot of problems in life. But truth be told, I never would have knew about it had he not said anything. Would I have found him another way eventually? I'm sure. But sometimes in being the one to notify someone of what not to do, certain kids are just going to go, well, my parents say it's bad, so I got to do. I'm that kid. My parents tell me not to do something. As soon as they turn their back, as
I
soon as
was
they
that
leave the
kid
room,
too.
I'm doing it because simply because they told me it was bad. The curiosity in that, the interest, the fascination of this is bad, this will upset my parents. I don't know, call it rebellion, call it being a teenager. I don't know what to call it, but I had that completely.
And this is just our perspective on things, and how we view things and how we remember things. Like, we're not saying that some kid is gonna go out there and use drugs just because their parent told him not to. We're just telling our side of things and how, you know, history was for us.
And also, just because someone's parents are an addict doesn't mean that kid's going to go pick up and use and have a bunch of problem with drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, their chances might be higher, or whatever statistically. They also might not be, and then that's the issue with statistics. That's the issue with the argument of genetics, and not just the genetics, but the nature of where they grow up, the environment in which they grow up. Even if they're being raised by people that are sober, they're still being raised by addicts who still have all these sort of personality issues and being a person in recovery. All these things within trying to become a better person and learn how to live life. And, I had a buddy in high school. It was crazy. He was the type of kid that every time we all got in trouble, like as a group, like if the police got called and they had to take us home and this and that, his parents would reward him every time. Every time he got in trouble, he would get like a new cell phone.
Really?
Every time. I swear to God, it was the weirdest thing. We got in trouble. I kid you not. We got in trouble for stealing his mom's car and we got caught. I didn't get caught, but I was in the group that night when it all went down, blah, blah, blah. They bought him a car.
Oh, wow.
It's like the opposite of what you think you should do. Now, had you asked me back then, are you and your buddy both going to have drug problems the rest of your life? I would assume he was going to have more problems than I did. And guess what? He's not had a lot of problems with drugs since he's been out of high school. He's just not. I mean, I think he still smokes a joint here and there, and he drinks on the weekends. But yeah, he's not had a lot of problems with drugs. And actually, strange enough, after that night when he got in trouble with the police, he's not had a lot of problems since then. I think we were like 16, 17.
Yes, it does, Mac 11. Absolutely.
Peer pressure, availability to drugs, cost, location, desire to change. Amen. I grew up in an environment where at my high school it was cool to eat pills. I was in high school between the years of 2000 and 2004. So if you look back at what drugs were popular, OxyContin was really popular in Ohio in that time period. And that's part of probably why I ended up trying it. That's part of why I snorted OxyContin for the first time, was because everybody else was doing it. The older kids are doing it. I hate to say that, but that's just how it is.
Yeah, see, when I was in high school, I'm older than you, so it was kind of different for me. The big thing with us was like acid, mushrooms, cocaine. Pills wasn't really big yet, so I never had the desire. Oh, mommy, I have three girls. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah and Brandon, for educating our community this morning with your input and your perspective and your experiences. Addiction doesn't discriminate, and the best of the best could be an addict. Prayers for anyone struggling. Thank you, Mommy
Amen.
and three girls. That is so true. Um, when it comes to drugs, there's a long history in my family. My mom died because of her disease. My biological grandmother, she was an alcoholic. My great grandfather was an alcoholic. So there's this long history there. So, in my opinion, it is genetic. It can be genetic. And there's some people that don't agree with that. What's your views on that, Brandon?
Part of me wants to say it's like a 50-50. If you get two kids, one of them could be and the other one most likely not. But I've seen families where you would assume the kids are going to be addicts and they weren't. I've also seen families where there was no drug history. Grandma and grandpa weren't addicts. Mom and dad didn't have those kind of problems, and their kid ends up, addicted to heroin. It's just so, it's still so unclear
Hey, Galway.
what it actually takes for someone to develop this disease. At the end of the day, the biggest thing is drinking and using drugs is what causes this disease. Alcohol is a huge part of our society, our rituals, our habits. When dad gets off work at night, he drinks a beer or drinks, whiskey and Coke or whatever. That's just a part of life, or that's how I was raised. And for a lot of the years that I think I struggled with recovery, when I was, I would get 6 months, then I would relapse, or I would, get out of a treatment program, and I don't want to use dope. I don't, but I could drink, right? I should be. I mean, I'll always drink, and that's what kept causing me to go back out. Because once I got drunk, I wanted to use other chemicals.
Good morning,
Um,
hybrid.
yeah, it's just so hard to call it on terms of what's going to happen with children, um, because of all the things we name, the environment where they live, what their friends are up to. Um, I try not to blame the media. I try not to blame like movie and music and video games, but I was probably influenced by those things. I probably was. My biggest heroes in rock and roll were dead heroin addicts. Those were the people that I
Amen.
was most fascinated with, or that I looked up to, not just as a rock star, but as a human being. I looked at the way these guys dressed and the way they did their hair and blah, blah, blah. I was interested in all that. And it just happened to be that most of those guys died of heroin overdoses.
Yeah, like Lane Staley. He was the lead singer for Alice in Chains. I've probably been infatuated with his story and his life probably since 1995. I always wanted to, be one of those Seattle grunge kids. I wanted to be cool like that. So I understand what you mean by that. And it's really sad and unfortunate because, his addiction ended up killing him and in a awful way. I mean, I think
Yeah.
he died and he probably weighed 70 pounds alone in his apartment. And I mean, his addiction literally consumed him in every way imaginable.
And Bradley Knoll from Sublime,
Yes.
he never even got to see them be a big band. That album came out, I think, 2 weeks after he died.
Yeah.
They used to have to go get him out of the dope house just to come record music. He'd be out stealing and robbing to cop dope. And, sure enough, they were just about to go on tour, and they went to I think it was their first or second tour date. And when they got up in the morning, he was gone. And he never got to see any of their success as big. I mean, that's a huge album, the self-titled Sublime album. I'm pretty sure it sold over 10 million copies, and
Mm-hmm.
influenced tons of bands and influenced me. That album came out when I was 12, and I loved it. It was everybody's favorite CD that summer, and the whole thing was about heroin. The whole album was about losing your girlfriend and your dad kicking you out and having to steal to get dope. And you know I didn't know that as a kid. I didn't. If they were talking about smoking weed, I thought that was cool, but I didn't get all the drug references yet because I hadn't lived them yet.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait, did Clary get blocked? Hold on. I just seen in a message that Clary got blocked. Why would Clary get blocked? Oh. Clary, if you got blocked, I am so sorry. I absolutely adore you. I didn't see what happened, but I apologize. If someone blocked Clary, can you unblock her for me? Okay. Man, that makes me sad. I really like Clary. And I don't want her to think that I did that or anything because I absolutely didn't. I don't really know what's going on, so I apologize. Brandon, can you look on the screen and read what Silver
Yeah,
Ring wrote?
yeah, I got it. Perfect. And thank you for listening to us on your way to work. Um, if when you get to work, if you can send a
I
link
see.
into this video about where that research is, because like I've seen some of the older research, and I've seen a little bit of the newer stuff. I'd love to read it because when I was big into like um, I worked third shift at a treatment center for years, so I read a lot of papers on addiction and drug trends, and different age groups, different you name it. I read it all, and a lot of it was I worked at a residential treatment center, so a lot of it was in relation to residential treatment centers. And yeah, Silver Wings, if you could send like a link or where some of that research is, I'd love to see it. And I could find some of it on my own, but it's just like there's so much stuff out there that's old, and there's so much stuff that's just um, people's opinion, more so than actual research. My let's see here. As
Oh,
far
Silver
back as
Wings.
my family can trace, and as far back as the people that knew my family in the town I grew up in, people have died from alcoholism and addiction since like the 1920s. So for 100 years, on my dad's side of the family, everyone dies from addiction. And I was the first one, as far as we can figure, to find recovery, or for recovery to find me, however you want to look at that. Um, so, it's one of those things. Part of me
Yeah.
always wants to say, yeah, there's an obvious genetic link. And then there's another part of me that goes, well, what about all these kids that didn't have, they might have had some issues in high school. They might have had some issues. Maybe they got a DUI, well, whatever. My only concern there is it doesn't always define a real addict or a real alcoholic. It defines people that drank and used drugs and had a consequence or a couple consequences. It doesn't make them a real addict. Now, defining a real addict or real alcoholic is not always easy either. I'm sorry. Were you going to say something, Sarah?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
The real alcoholic is someone that drinks no matter what, regardless of consequences. And the same with a real addict. They're going to use no matter what. And sometimes that could take years to get to. Sometimes it could be a real roller. Like I've met people who didn't have major addiction issues until they were in their 50s and even 60s. I sponsored a guy who got sober at 60. I watched my dad get sober at 53. So it's just one of those things where I don't know. When we're talking about, I know that I'm going to say in 2014 they had a complete flip of statistic on populations of addicts. So for a long time in Dayton, Ohio, the average heroin addict was a middle-aged African American male, and in 2014 the statistic became a 18 to 22-year-old Caucasian female. So that's a big change in terms of who's using the drugs, or at least who they're recording that's going to treatment for
Yeah, and
that
that's the
drug.
big thing. That's the big thing with statistics. There's a lot of people that don't do these surveys or these statistics. So they're only including people that either get paid to do these. I'm sorry, I'm kind of like in and out because my son, he's got the microwave going and I'm trying to get him to stop. Will you talk about that for a second, Brand?
Yeah, I got it. It's just a fact of the matter. Not every induction clinic, not every treatment center Usually to get into treatment, you have to get an assessment done. Not all of those are required to report statistics to the government, and a lot of them don't. Usually the ones that do are the community agencies. So those agencies are set up for people that typically don't have insurance or have public insurance, Medicaid, Medicare.
And Babe
Oh,
Beauty, I'm kind of like that too. I mean, I did use some drugs, but I wasn't raised in a household that used any drugs or that drank alcohol. And my grandparents, they were so unbelievably strict. I grew up believing that, certain drugs were just awful and that, they were of the devil.
oh
I,
yeah.
so I always thought people who used heroin were just these trashy people living under a bridge, getting warmed by a barrel of fire. I never thought I would end up being a heroin addict. And, heroin didn't come into my life until I was what, 30, 32. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think addiction as a whole can be hereditary because I never woke up one day and said, "Oh, I'm going to become an addict today." That was never my thought process. And I don't know.
Here's something crazy. I have to tell this because of what you were talking about. Do you know how your grandpa got sober, Sarah?
Honestly, I don't remember. I know he
Okay.
talked to you about that.
So your grandfather was on a boat in Pearl Harbor
Oh,
and drinking. He had had a few cocktails, and he said that all of a sudden the sirens started going off, and all these bombs and planes diving out of the sky, and it was just crazy. And the next thing he knew, he was in the water.
really?
And he begged God. He said, "God, if you get me out of this alive, I'll never drink again. I'll clean up my behavior and all this other stuff." And he never drank again.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That like gave me goosebumps.
He got sober at Pearl Harbor during Pearl Harbor. Yeah.
That's actually
It's
fascinating. I didn't.
crazy.
He
And
never
I,
talked to me about those things because they were these really strict Christian people. So, of course, he's going to talk to Brandon about it, but he never talked to me about those kind of things. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that.
yeah, I think your grandma didn't like him talking about his time in the military for some reason.
No, she didn't. She would change the subject, or she'd say, "Bill Parton."
Well, he had that picture with that hula girl, and she didn't like that. I think
Oh, she hated that.
she,
She hated that picture. I think some things might have happened while
yeah,
Grandpa was in the military, so Grandma's kind of.
yeah, not happy about it. Rightfully so. So yeah, they didn't talk about it much. But yeah, when he told me that story, I'm just shaking my head. I got sober in the county jail, like as a, turning myself in from stealing from my own mother. This dude got sober at Pearl Harbor during. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to imagine. But he
Yeah.
would talk to me because I would talk to him about AA. He was a Bible guy. I knew a little bit about the Bible, but that was his book. He knew everything about it. So we would just kind of share ideas more so in terms of spirituality, and then
Silver
try to.
Wings, I definitely am. Sorry, Brandon.
Oh, you're good.
No, the spirituality aspect of it, you and Grandpa related so well.
Oh, it was great. It was
Yeah.
great. But my thing with statistics, and trust me, I'm sure there's statistics that are spot on. I'm sure there are plenty of numbers out there that are real. I've just been around and been a part of when they weren't, to ensure funding and to ensure that things got paid for. And that is what it is. Is it wrong? Is it right? I don't know. All I know is that, and regardless, statistics are terrible. I mean, I'm talking for the respective residential treatment centers. So to even try to make those numbers look any better is like, what for? They're so awful. But at the end of the day, yeah, it kind of, everybody's different, and it comes down to the individual, and it comes down to how much pain the individual is willing to handle and looking towards getting sober. I know what it took for me. I don't believe that hitting bottom is a physical place. I think it's emotional.
Yeah, I agree.
I've got buddies that hit bottom with, their kids in college and 2 cars in the garage and a big job. And I got buddies that, got sober behind a dumpster. And that's just the reality of addiction and alcoholism and everything that comes with it.
I
you
was
know.
just tired. I was tired of the chase. Like, it was so draining. And I know it had to have aged me by 10 years at least, because it's hard to be an addict. You know, people sit there and think, oh, it's so easy to be an addict. They should get clean, this or that. I mean, it's not that easy, like at all.
No, no. If it was, I mean, treatment centers would turn out winners.
Yeah.
You know, penitentiaries would turn out winners. You know, year round, and they do not. You
Yeah,
know,
I think I've been to rehab, what, 5 or 6 times?
I've been 5 times,
Yeah.
county jails and outpatient and detox and you
And
name
God
it.
bless those that can go to rehab just one time.
Yeah,
God bless them. I wish I would have been one of them.
yeah. I got a few buddies. I got a few buddies that pulled it off after treatment center number one, but they were in enough pain. They were in a
Yeah.
place where they were willing to make some changes in their life. And I don't always know that it's even about choices. You know, people are like, "Oh, well, you choose to do this, so just don't do that." It's come on.
Good morning, Sony side up.
You really think any junkie with a needle in their arm wouldn't stay clean if they could? And a lot of people don't understand that because they haven't lived that way, but that's a miserable way to live.
Yeah.
It's not about getting high. Getting high is long gone. It's about staying well because your body's so jacked up from all the drugs you've been doing. It's not about choices. You know, I think we get sober by the grace of a higher power. That's what I believe because that's my experience and it's what I've seen in others. If you don't believe in that, you know, find your own way to do it or what to call it. But at the end of the day, you know, a lot of things that happened in my getting sober, I can't explain it to you because it was just like at the end, I was starting to be really honest with people. You know, I would tell them people like, yeah, I don't know how to stay clean.
Well, yeah, and see, when you said honest, that's where my problem was. I don't think I was in denial, but I was ashamed for people to know that I was a heroin addict, or I was ashamed that I was, doing things to get a drug that I normally wouldn't, or that people don't normally do. I was completely ashamed of who I was. And I think once I ended up getting sober and, going to rehab and becoming a part of AA, all of that changed. Like, the shame kind of went away. I wasn't ashamed anymore because it's who I am. It was a part of my past. So I don't know.
It's you know, recovery's a gift. It's a big gift in my life, and it has a lot to do with the people in my life more so than anything I did. You know, I somehow ended up in front of people who made sense to me and were able to reach me in a time where I really needed it. And you know, in terms of statistics, definitely don't believe everything you read. Certain statistics can be a guide or a tool used to help gauge a success rate or what could or could not happen. But at the end of the day, there are so many broken statistics running around that's hard to like we said. You know, I think it's the average heroin addict goes to rehab 5 times before they get clean, right?
Hmm.
What about all my friends that went 1 time? What about all
Right.
my friends that went 2 times? Like, there's just so many broken statistics running around. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to tell.
And some of these statistics, they're they just they I don't know. I don't know how I'm trying to word it. Like, they don't relate to people's experiences that I've been in contact with. Oh gosh.
What are
Sorry,
the
the
dogs
dogs are barking. Yeah.
going crazy? An addict believes he will die and withdraw the instincts to live keeps him addicted. Amen. The biggest fear of any junkie is being sick. I was petrified of being sick. I had a lot of trouble sleeping because I knew once I go to sleep, that's going to kind of cause me to become sick. I'm going to wake up sick. And a lot of nights I would stay up all night because it felt easier to deal with in the morning, you know, the sickness that was oncoming more so than if I had fallen asleep and woken up. But
And I think a lot of that too has mind over matter. I can actually remember waking up every morning, or before I'd go to bed, I would sit there and think, okay, I'm going to be sick at exactly 7 o'clock in the morning. So I got to go and do this, this, and this. So I'm well. I think a lot of that is mine too. I don't think I was
yeah,
actually.
yeah, like you prep yourself for it, like you make it worse than it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I did all that too. There absolutely were physical issues in the morning, but my mind would magnify it and make it 100 times worse
Yeah.
because I know how to get rid of it for $20, $40, whatever I had or was capable of getting at 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning.
Mac 11, it is heartbreaking, but it's reality. Like, it's our realities. It's like, these are the kind of things that we went through. And I don't mind sharing it with people, like, at all. I know that some people can relate to my story and others maybe not so much, but I like sharing, addiction is so unbelievably sad. It's taken some of the most beautiful people that's been on this earth, and
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
yeah, it's
So many
ruined so
people.
many families. It's ruined my family. I haven't spoke to my father in 5 years, and I can't sit there and blame him for all of it because I was a big part of that, and my addiction caused a lot of that. So,
And one more thing on the genetic thing, I have a sibling.
yeah.
Grew up in the same house, petted the same dog. We ate at the same breakfast table. We went to Christmas every year together. And that sibling, if you'd have asked me, are they going to have problems? I would say probably worse than me
Mac
because
11, thank you for being here and listening.
I saw how they grew up and how they were treated different in certain ways than I was. I think my parents were a little nervous after I started. They're 6 years younger, so I noticed some changes. My parents had made trying to raise my sibling, and I got a couple phone calls when they were in college. That there was some problems, and I thought we got another one. We got another addict to the list, and after college, they got a job, and you know,
Oh,
things have
mommy
been
of three
okay.
girls, thank you so much. Addiction recovery needs to be talked about a lot more, and the awareness of it. So, thank you for doing this and bringing awareness to addiction. I appreciate you, mommy of three girls. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we do. We just talk about it because in terms of statistics, in terms of what's right and what's wrong, and who's going to grow up and be an addict, who's not going to grow up and be an addict, I, I don't have
People
that
don't
answer.
know. They don't. You can't sit there and say, my child is not going to be an addict because I know I've raised them better and I talked to them about it. Well, that's
Oh,
not necessarily true. You don't know what's going to happen to your child. I hope and pray to God my children don't grow up to be addicts. But I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what the future brings. I'm worried for my son because his father died from an addiction. I've almost died from my addiction. So he's kind of getting a double whammy there. So, there's definitely warning signs with certain things like video games and things like that. I worry about these things. I try to talk to him. I definitely don't joke about it with him because I don't find, calling someone a junkie or someone being an addict, I don't think that's funny. I don't think it's funny at all. It's serious. And I don't think it should be joked about. That's just my opinion, though.
yeah, no, I'm with you. This is about life and death to me. This isn't. I mean, I can tell you old stories and we'll all laugh and goofy stuff I did when I was getting high or when I was drinking, and I can also tell you stories that'll bring you to tears or bring me to tears because this is life or death. This is about, do you want to live or do you want to die?
Yeah, and some people are not as passionate about this topic as we are, but it was us. We lived it, and we know a lot of people who have lived it too, and we know a lot of people that it's really affected their lives. So I really don't find, joking about addiction being funny. I've never thought it was okay to call someone a crackhead or, certain names like that. I don't think that's okay. It's hurtful, and I know people pick on me a lot because, I uh, I voiced my opinion about that, but I don't think it's okay.
I don't know. I wish we did have the answers, and I wish we did have statistics that were always right on point and could point to you exactly what to do, and we just don't have it. It
So,
doesn't exist.
Brandon, question: do you
Yes.
place any blame on your parents or take it totally on yourself?
Oh, totally me. Okay, great question. Okay, so like I said, my grandmother was a heroin addict. Okay, my dad had major issues with alcohol, but he also he played college football and got hurt a lot, blah blah blah. So he had a lot of back surgeries in the '90s. So he was on painkillers for 30 years. Um, when I first started going to rehab, I want to say it was like was it, 06, 07, 2006, 2007. I started going to residential treatment. And that was a big thing in treatment was looking at the genetic link, your parents, the environment you grew up in. And they kind of pointed the finger. The issue there is if it's my parents' fault or my grandparents' fault, I'll never get clean. Because guess what? It's not my disease, it's their disease. Until I was able to say, you know what, I'm the one who put that shit in my body every morning. I was the one with a bottle in my hand every night, pill bottle, whiskey bottle, whatever. I'm an addict because I drink and use drugs. I'm not an addict, an alcoholic as a result of who raised me or how much money we had or where we went to church or it's irrelevant. It's too late. It doesn't matter. I have the disease. It doesn't matter whether someone caused it or not. My parents definitely things happened to me when I was a kid that didn't help. You know, I definitely grew up in a house where I knew what Percocet was. I definitely grew up in a house where my dad had a full bar in our basement, full bar. And he had expensive stuff. He had beer, he had wine, he had champagne, whiskey, tequila, Valium. He had a bottle of Valium. Come on. You know,
You
it
might
probably
have
didn't
dabbled
help.
into that a little bit.
Probably didn't help. But I guarantee you, in knowing my dad, he didn't want any of that to hurt me. My dad used to give me drinks of whiskey when I was like 5 and 6 years old. You know, here, drink this and put some hair on your chest. And I would take a sip of the whiskey and make a face, and everybody'd laugh.
Yeah.
He was doing that because that's how he was raised. Because that's what they did to him when he was a kid. That's how they raised children. My dad told me that in winter, they were so poor that they didn't have heat in the house. And in winter, his mom would make him and his sisters all take a drink of bourbon before they went to bed to keep them warm at night. When a baby has a fever and is crying, shot of bourbon.
Yeah, or they'd put it on the gums.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Put it on the gums. You've got it.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. None of that was done to hurt them or to hurt me. It was because that's how they were raised and they thought that was best. I own 100% of my addiction. I used to not. You know, I used to kind of look at my dad and go, oh, well, I'm an addict because he's an addict. The issue there is I'm blaming. And this is a blaming disease. I will find anything to blame my addiction on so I can continue using.
Mm-hmm.
It stopped working for me. In the end, there was no one left to blame but myself. I had been to rehab enough times and I had talked to my family enough times to know that it was me. I was the problem.
Hey,
It's
Jennifer.
a great question. I hope that kind of explains it, but
Yeah, I would
definitely
blame.
not my parents' fault. Definitely not.
Yeah. When I was in my addiction, my active addiction, I would blame everybody and their brother. And I would blame, things that happened in my life for my addiction. The way people treated me, how broke I was. Well, that's why I'm going to go use. I mean,
I'll show you.
yeah. But at the end of the day, it was my decision. I'm the one to blame. I can't blame everybody else around me. I have to take accountability for my actions. So, yeah. And it took a long time to realize that. A really long time.
This is a family disease. It truly
Absolutely.
is. And I got a lot of buddies in AA who've got kids that are now starting to have some problems and are going to rehab. I couldn't tell you how many of my buddies' kids that I've had to help them get in rehab. And these are guys with 20 and 30 years sober, and they're going, what the hell? I'm this guy in AA and I've raised this kid to try to not drink and use drugs,
Jennifer
matter.
asks a good question. How do you help someone who doesn't want help? Is there anything I can do?
Prayer is the first big one, and that's actually more for them sometimes than you. I'm a person that believes that we're beyond human help when we're using. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
So even if spiritual means a group of people, it doesn't have to always mean a higher power if it's not what you believe in. For me, it's a higher power. So prayer is key. The second thing is learning to say no. That's a big one.
That's a huge one. Yeah.
Addicts and alcoholics do not like the word no, but the word no allows us to hit bottom quicker. Um, Sometimes you have to help people down if you can't help them up. And sometimes helping them down is no, you can't stay here. No, you can't have $20. It puts them in a position to where they got to go figure it out. And if they can't figure it out, well, they might want to start looking to get some help.
Yeah, like, my grandparents, my whole family absolutely turned their back on me. And I had nothing. I had nowhere to go. I didn't know what to do. So I kind of had to, I knew that I was done. I didn't want to run anymore. I didn't want to live like this anymore. But, my family turning their back on me was probably what helped me get to detox quicker, help me get into a program quicker.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, True Helper. It's good to see you. Do you think there's a huge difference between alcohol and drug addiction?
Yeah, I do. I'll tell you why. Um, so the criteria is a little different. If we're going by 12-step literature, because that's what I go by, because that's what's worked best for me. So the difference is with alcoholics, the definition of an alcoholic is different than an addict between the two books. So a real alcoholic has to have two things. The first one is if, or no. What is it? Crap. I've totally lost it. I was just in another planet. You'll have to forgive me. Okay, so alcoholics have this thing called phenomenon of craving. Once I drink one or two, my body craves more alcohol. Once I use heroin, my body doesn't crave heroin anymore. The craving goes away because I've ingested enough to get that shit off me. Alcoholism also, there are a lot of people that can look like alcoholics, but if they have sufficient reason to quit, they will quit. The boss tells them you're about to get fired. The wife says divorce, whatever. They are able to find a reason to stop. That's not a real alcoholic. That's someone who just has a problem with drinking. The real alcoholic drinks in spite of the consequences, and that's my story.
Mm-hmm.
The judge told me, Mr. Pittman, if you come back in here again, you're definitely going to do those 2 years, and we're going to add some time due to your probation violation if you come in under a PV. The judge says you're definitely going to prison. Most people would think about, how do I stay sober? All I could think about is, I wonder what prison's going to be like. That's insane thinking. Addiction a lot of times is more all-encompassing, where alcoholism is simply focused on alcohol only. Addiction can manifest in so many different ways. If we're just talking about drugs of abuse, there are certain drugs that you can use where your body craves more and more: cocaine, crack, those types of things. But a lot of them, the craving goes away once you ingest it, where with alcohol, the craving gets worse. Closely linked, yeah, but I don't feel like they're the same, mostly because I see people in AA that should be in NA, and I see people in NA that should be in AA. That's you could probably say that's an opinion. And then not even, I don't feel like it's an opinion. I feel like it's my experience, because I've seen it.
Yeah, you're more of an AA kind of person. And I didn't particularly, it's not that I didn't like AA. It's just I had nothing in common with those people because I never really drank. I used hardcore drugs. So
Yeah.
I was better suited in NA,
Oh,
I could
absolutely.
relate more to people in NA.
Absolutely. And then there are people that have very little problem with alcohol that hide in AA because they're afraid of NA. They're afraid of people. AA's got a lot of bleeding hearts that just want to help everybody and smile, and it's going to be okay. And if they go to NA ain't like that, depending on where you go to meetings.
Right.
They are in your face, and they will testify, and it's beautiful. The reason I think AA worked for me is because alcohol ended up being the catalyst for me to use drugs. I was a person that, as I'm talking about shooting dope, times where I was on crack, times where I was on a lot of pills, alcohol was on the table every night. I was a daily drinker. I drank every day, and I didn't drink two. I drink everything I get my hands on.
Pixie
Yeah.
has a question. Did it make it easier to stay sober knowing how hard and how sick you got during the detox process and
No,
rehab?
no. Um, I have an amazing ability to forget pain. Um, my brain will never paint the picture of being sick in a jail cell or in a detox.
Yeah.
My brain will only paint the picture of how good it's going to feel. And we're only
Yeah.
going to do it once. We're just going to do it one time, maybe two. We'll get enough to do a little bit tomorrow, then we're not doing it again. And
That's why relapse is probable for a lot of people, because we don't think about the consequences. We sit there and think about the feeling and how good it's going to feel.
I mean, trust and believe. I'll never forget what that was like. But I can't. My life's
Yeah, but
so good today.
we sit there and think, well, that's not going to happen to us again because we're smarter.
Right.
We won't let that happen.
You got it.
Yeah.
Or I'll just take pills this time. If I can find the right doctor, I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Lie after lie after lie, and that's what caused me to continue to relapse. When I kicked drugs in 2008, I did it in a jail cell, and it was a full kick, no meds. They didn't even give me Tylenol. I mean, they let me kick like a dog, and it definitely helped. Like it helped because I didn't want to do that ever again. But I was high. I was shooting dope within 9 months. I had a needle back in my arm, and my brain wasn't saying, oh, you're going to be sick. My brain was saying, let's get this dope in us. F it, we'll figure it out tomorrow, was what my brain was saying. And it's just, I can't remember pain in that way, not related to alcohol and drugs. I can do it in terms of a relationship. I can do it in terms of a job. Like, oh, I really screwed this job up. I'll never do that again. Or I really hurt this person. I got to make sure. Like, I could do that. But in terms of drugs and alcohol, no. And plus, my life is so good today. Like, I can't remember that. When I describe this to people, it's like I'm describing a different person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, Sarah.
No, you're on it. Like, every time I relapsed, I never thought about the consequences. I mean, I knew they were there, but in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, that's not going to happen again. I'm not going to let that happen again. Or I've already experienced this. There's no way it can happen again. I don't know. I mean,
in 2008, I got out of I kicked in jail, and I did 6 months in jail. I got out. I went to rehab. And about, I don't know, 6 weeks after getting kicked out of rehab, I was running with a buddy of mine, and we went and got some dope. And this is crazy. He looked at me, and Sarah will know what I'm talking about. We just got the dope, and we were about to pull over, and he looked at me and he said, "Do you think we should call Nate and not do this?" Nate's a one of the guys that's kind of a pillar of recovery in our neighborhood and in our recovery community. And I said, no, well, F it, we'll figure it out. Don't think about it, just do it.
Pause that thought. What's the first thing Nate ever said to you when we got together?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah. They went to high school together, so. So right there, and the buddy I'm talking about, he's been to prison 3 or 4 times. Like, he's used to going to jail and kicking dope and locked up for a year or two and getting out, and but he was the voice of reason and all that. He was the one saying, maybe we shouldn't do this. God, I don't know where he is now. God bless him. I hope he's okay. But it's just, I don't have that ability. I don't have the ability to remember that type of pain. It's a different life. Thank God, we've been able to stay sober and stay clean. And yeah, it's definitely taken some work. I didn't just sit around. I did what was required of me, but man, it's a gift. I've been way overpaid and over.
Did you cut out on me, buddy?
No, just, getting phone calls, wanting to know what I think about the election again.
We get so many spam calls, so many spam emails. There's times that our phone goes off at the same exact time. That's so crazy to me. And it's all because of this election. It drives me insane.
I don't know who put us on that list. It's probably one of these crazy people my wife goes after on the internet, but they put our phone number on some list, and we just get phone calls all day from.
Yeah, the other day, I kid you not, I took a screenshot of it. I had over 8,000 emails in
Yeah, I
just
got.
a few
Yeah,
days.
yeah,
So we've definitely been spammed.
yes,
Oh, well, it's crazy.
yes, yes.
Pixie, I adore you. I think the truth said that she's going to be going live after this. She's got a few things she wants to talk about. And, I know this is near and dear to her heart because she's experienced some things that we have, but in a different perspective. She's the mother of an addict. So I
God
think
bless
that'll
her.
be good. Yeah, yeah. She's going through a lot right now. So I'm intrigued to see what she's going to be talking about. I like coming on and doing these lives with Brandon. I know we talk about addiction a lot, but it's kind of, it's where we come from. It's who we are. It's like kind of embedded in us. And,
Yeah,
our family, a big portion of my family is addicts, and so's Brandon's. And so we hold it near and dear.
it's a big miracle in our lives. It brought us together. It made us who we are. And if we can learn to love ourselves, you learn to look back at addiction and look at the goofy stuff we did, the evil stuff we did, all the wrongs, and be able to say, you know what, I might not be where I'm at or where I would like to be in life, but I'm not back there anymore.
Yeah, and
You
that
know?
right there is a blessing.
Yeah.
I'm not down on Xenia Avenue trying to find a place to sleep, being homeless. I've got a home to live in with family that loves me and, doesn't judge me on my past. And I'm very grateful for that because I was pretty shitty when I was an addict and I did some pretty bad things. So I'm grateful for those that are still in my life that are here to love me. And anybody can get clean. I swear to God, anybody can get clean. It can be done. And I think people that are using, sometimes doubts that because they'll sit there and think, well, I cannot get clean. I don't know how, or I don't know how to stay sober. And if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. And it's a gift. I know I've said that 600 times, make that 601. It's a gift in my life, and I'm just so grateful. And part of being grateful is I need to come and talk about it and say that, I went through these things, but because of, the people in recovery show me a different way of life, I have an amazing life today. And that's all due to, a bunch of old guys sitting around a table drinking coffee, talking about drinking and how to stay sober and talking about their spiritual path. And it truly saved my life.
I'm telling
Um,
you what, those old guys in recovery, those guys, oh gosh, I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say, but those guys are key because they kicked hard. Those were the guys that they would lock in a room and they would detox without any medication or
yep.
without Suboxone. Those
Yep.
guys are the real warriors, I'm telling you.
Yeah. I got a buddy. He's still alive. He got sober chained to a wall.
Isn't that crazy how they used to
Yep.
do that?
Yeah, that's how he got sober. He was they chained him to at the leg. They chained him by the leg to a wall, and he
Mm.
came off booze for the millionth time and ended up staying sober. But he's got over 50 years now. But it just, if you're looking at statistics, good luck. Like I said, I hope that some of them are accurate. I wish they were more clear, at least where we live, because you got to understand, like I think it was, what was it, like a year ago, they were reporting how great everything was, and it was totally improving. And then like 6 weeks later, they reported that those numbers weren't accurate.
Well, yeah. And see, Laura, she's over there saying statistics. This is a quote: statistics are facts. No, statistics are not factual.
Not where we
Those
live.
are opinions, speculation. That's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never agreed with statistics because um, I've talked to a lot of people and their experiences, and they're quite different than statistics. So.
not where we live. They're just not accurate. They put out a year-long stat that 6 weeks later they said wasn't accurate, and it's just like, why would they even put those numbers out? Now
Right.
I know because I used to work in treatment. Those numbers were put out to continue funding.
Mm-hmm.
And there was obviously some sort of issue, and they got honest in the press. I don't know why. I wasn't involved with any of that. I just read about it in the news. It was all over Facebook. Um, and once again, those are
No, Mac
statistics.
11, you didn't get timed out on purpose. I think someone accidentally timed you out. It definitely wasn't on purpose. I absolutely adore you and I'm grateful for you. So I don't think it was intentional. I'm kind of looking at the chat and I see where it was an accident. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Can you time me out?
Yeah, you're grounded, actually. I don't know why, but I'll figure out a
Does that
reason
mean I
you're
can stay in my
grounded.
room? Can I stay in my room? That'd be
Yeah.
great. All right. I like this.
No, I mean, I need you to go to Kroger's first, then you can be grounded.
I knew that was coming. But in terms of dealing with your kids, once again, good luck. I don't want that for anybody. I think that's a really difficult thing. And if someone's found something that works, great. Um, if you think you got an addict on your hands, you might want to start praying, is the best way I could put it to you. Um, but recovery is available.
Yeah, read what
Recovery.
Kay Mello wrote. She said, back in the days when addiction wasn't accepted as a disease, I'm on the side that this can indefinitely and often is hereditary.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm an example of that. My only question is, what about my sibling? My only question is, what about these families where it didn't? I just hope that one day they're really able to figure that stuff out because
It's
it's just
definitely a
bizarre.
disease, in my opinion.
Oh no, it's without a doubt a disease.
Yeah.
We've known that's a long time. I don't know why it took them so long to list it as a disease. Not like it matters, but it took them a lot of years to say that this is a disease of the mind. This is a brain disease. And in terms of hereditary, yeah, my dad, me. Um, I guess I'm just real interested in those that aren't. Those that grew up in the same environment that didn't end up. And I think if you'd ask them, why didn't you have, they might have experimented with drugs and alcohol. They would probably point to their family members and say, well, look at them. That's why I didn't get hooked on whatever. That's why I didn't use these type of drugs because I saw what it did to my brother or my friend or my wife, whatever.
And,
Um,
this is why I think it's a disease, because one addiction can turn into another addiction. Like I had an addiction to drugs. And once I got sober, I still had that way of thinking, or I don't know how to explain it, but my new addiction turned into food. And then like it turned into online games and or buying jewelry. And these are things that I'm trying to work on now, but they can definitely turn into an addiction easily. Like I had to delete a game off of my phone. Sorry, Brandon, you might not know about this, but I was spending like $1.99 to buy more lives or jewels or whatever.
I'm
And
so surprised.
yeah, I'm sorry. I mean,
Uh,
I had to delete that because I knew that it was becoming a problem and I didn't want it to get so bad that I drained our bank account. And I knew that could happen. I I don't know. I'm that way with games anyways.
we're gonna get her a Switch or something for Christmas. That way,
No, just buy
we're
me
gonna find something.
jewelry. I don't want to switch.
All right, you'll get your jewelry.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You seen that ring I wanted, right? My birthday's
Oh
coming up
yeah.
in a few weeks.
I know. I know. I know. I know.
Yeah.
But that's about all I've got.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for chiming in. Thank you. Please always ask questions. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for interacting. Like, um, I wish we could do these more often. Our, Brandon's schedule and mine are completely different, but I'm glad that we can come in here and kind of talk about this and be honest about, things that have happened in our experiences with drugs and alcohol. I'm really grateful that you guys care about that, because it does affect a lot of this country. It does affect a lot of this world, actually. And you know we're getting to a place in time where it's not more acceptable, but it's being talked about more and there's more help out there. I'm definitely grateful for that.
Me too. Big time.
Yeah, but I hope you guys have a beautiful day and thank you for coming in to hang out with us and you know talk about this. It matters to us. And yeah, so Brandon, you gonna go to Kroger's for me?
I'll see you guys later. I got to go to Kroger.
I'd like to get a Starbucks. I've been craving a Starbucks. Thank you.
You guys have a good one.